taxes!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 4 of the 911 Lone Star Roundup. I'm one of your hosts, Grace, and with me are my lovely co-hosts, Katie.
Hey guys.
EJ.
Hey everyone.
And Shaz.
Hello everybody.
Today we will be talking about the episodes 4 and 5 of Lone Star, Act of God and Studs. Just reminding you that we're not recapping the episodes, but we're just pointing out what stood out to us. So let's get started on episode 4.
Act of God. Tornado in Austin.
Tornado. The lady with the S.
Oh my gosh.
I
Yeah.
felt so bad for her like the entire time. Yo, why am I now the lady with the Etsy shop? Like, no, I can relate, bro.
I'm just doing this until it picks up. That's right.
Like, me going into work every day. Like, you don't understand. My hoodies will sell.
If there's that money, I'll buy them. All of them. We can never have too many hoodies.
True.
Ronan and TK.
Yes. Well, I love kind of the beginning. So, like, we were kind of hinted at it at the end of the last episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
We got the glimpse of the gal, and then we got a kind of a different take on it the next time. And so we're starting like with this, and then it's like, was it 12 hours before or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get Owen he's talking with Wayne at getting chemo again. And I don't know. It's weird. Since we did get a little bit of it, it was almost not a shock. But then like the 12 hours before, so it's like everything building up to the tornado. Yeah. And I feel like the some ways Owen's cancer is a tornado because it just like came almost out of nowhere for him.
Yeah.
And it tore up a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I like how they do the 12 hours before and everything like that, because the original does that kind of thing too. Like they did it with the earthquake and the tsunami and some of the bigger episodes like that. I like it because, for one thing, there's like that little bit of suspense, but you also aren't thrown directly into the middle of something. You have the build up.
Right.
But like you still have something keeping you like watching because you know something's coming.
You're like, when are they going to fit it in?
Like, hello! Yeah.
And that's when Wayne found out that Owen was at 9/11 Ground Zero.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a somber moment.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah.
Oh yeah, Judd playing games like it's like he's like a teenager.
Oh my gosh, that made me crack up so much. Like, oh my god.
And then
I would never picture him to be like a gamer.
No,
like,
I wouldn't either.
Me neither. But when you see it, it actually kind of fits in a weird way.
Yeah, like I get it.
Like,
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, now I get it.
Yeah, but at first it's like, okay.
Yeah. Well, and we got Grace that comes in. So I guess, so obviously the episode's called Act of God. So again, they're kind of following along with the themes.
Mm-hmm.
So he turns Grace down when she suggests they go on a date to the Bible study. So it must be a Tuesday because we later find out that they're on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And he's like, a church date?
That's not
No,
hot.
but the best part.
He's like,
yeah.
He's like, I haven't really felt like I've been full of the Spirit. And I did like what Grace said there. I feel like it's something I would say.
Yes.
She's like, well, in my experience, the best fix for that is to get back in the Word. And, you know, and I think for everyone has a faith, whether it's Christianity, Hinduism, Muslim, any of those religions.
Judaism.
There's always that pull that you feel better when you're connected to the higher power that you believe in.
Yeah.
And like, I know we've talked about it in the past, like he's been questioning God and all of that because his whole crew died in a very terrible accident. And
one of the worst things that could happen happened.
Yeah.
And like he can't make out where his faith and God is in that.
Yeah. And I think, so we've got the Judd situation. We've also got Owen. The chemo is starting to get to him because we see him throwing up in the locker room, I guess, as they're getting ready for their shift.
Yeah.
And Paul's making dinner, which I thought was really cool. I love the little banter there.
I love
that.
With the spicy rigatoni.
Yeah.
No, like legit. After that episode, I made spicy rigatoni like 5 days in a row.
Love that.
Yeah, and so Owen's like, oh no, I'm gonna pass on dinner, and then he's like trying to like play it off as he got dinner earlier or something, and TK's like, well, thanks for the invite.
I love that line. The sass, just like his face while he's saying that with food in his mouth. I just love that.
Mm-hmm.
And Judd covering for Owen, like, yeah, that place I told you about, basically.
Yeah, and at first I never thought of it as a cover, but like obviously it's like kind of obvious now, but I just wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, there's something going on which is about the issue that nobody else here knows about, so
He's like, oh yeah.
let's get about it.
Yeah.
And by this point, by this episode, but I think we could kind of start seeing it a little bit earlier, we're seeing that TK knows something's off. Like, he's like, what's going on?
Yeah, because I think in the last episode, I think I forgot to mention about, was that when Owen was in the gym lifting weights, and like Judd had to come over quick and help him out, and TK's like, hey Dad, are you okay? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm fine. And TK's like seeing like, you usually get that done in like a heartbeat or whatever. So he was surprised that his dad was having a problem with that weight that he was trying to lift. Yeah. So yeah,
and like he left it alone, but he knew something wasn't quite right.
Yeah.
And obviously they live together, so he has to have heard maybe some of the coughing and stuff like that.
Well, we know TK already knew about the coughing because he's been coughing since New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like if somebody I lived with originally passed off his virus, because like obviously Owen didn't know any better, right. But like months out, he's still coughing. I'd start wondering.
Yeah.
It's like climate change.
Yeah. Which actually makes me think about something. So I just realized Owen would not have just made an appointment with his regular doctor, gone in, they would have done a chest x-ray, and they said, oh yeah, you have this cancer and it's this stage. It would have taken months or weeks at least to go to your doctor, see there's a problem, be referred to an oncologist. The oncologist would order tests. I mean, it would not just be that day.
A random thing, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So either they were taking liberties with the writing, or this was something coming up that he knew about, and he had been referred to, and the doctor he initially saw was an oncologist. And so, but he'd already seen like his doctor maybe knew something was wrong.
Yeah, obviously, like he wouldn't worry his son.
Right.
Well, he already is not worrying his son, even though there is something wrong. But he won't worry TK if he doesn't know, like, what's going on. So I guess it is quite plausible that this was weeks in the work. So, I don't know, but that's a good point.
Yes, I just thought of that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Because like, I remember when my mom got diagnosed, like they said they thought she had it, but they wanted to send her to a specialist. And it was like 3 weeks later before she could get into the specialist.
Yeah, because they're pretty busy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And during the whole dinner thing, before they actually sat down for dinner, it was like they told Mateo to take down the flag.
He's like, why do I have to do it?
Because you're the movie.
And everybody says it basically at the same time. Yeah. And obviously that was coordinated, but just objectively, it's like, love that.
Yeah. And he's taking down the flag, and of course he like gets caught with the wind. And
the banner falls down.
He's hanging basically on for dear life.
Yeah, and who was it that said, it's the first time I've had to rescue a firefighter at a fire station?
Paul.
I think it's
Paul.
That's a very Paul line.
Yeah, and then at that moment when like they do go out and rescue him, they see the tornadoes touching down, and then Owen's like, Judd, you must have experience with this. And he's like, what's the protocol? The protocol is we don't get our asses killed so we can save everybody else's asses later.
I love that so much.
Good line. I loved it.
And like, it's true for just about anything. Like, save yourself so you can save people later.
Which, just like putting your mask on first before your like your kid or your husband's mask or on the airplane.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think that call they had, the first kind of big call they had when they did finally go out, was pretty tough for a lot of things. You know, like the dad and his two kids. The dad crawls out of the house, can't find his kids. They finally get there, and once they find out that the kids are actually alive, they go in but Owen, did you guys see the look that Owen gave when, like, he looked at TK when TK was getting ready to go inside that house?
Oh my god, that's such a heartbreaking scene. Like the way that he
That sounds very vaguely
he
familiar.
put himself in danger to save his son. Like I mean, because he knew like a secondary collapse was like coming.
Right.
So he'd rather
Yeah.
like I'm dying anyway, so might as well
Yeah. In a blaze of glory,
protect my
Also-
boy.
Yeah.
Also,
And like that's seriously understandable.
yeah. Like, honestly, like, a captain isn't gonna put the rest of his men at risk, knowing
Yeah.
like, a lot of times whoever has the most experience will probably go in rather than his, like, so Owen put himself first rather than everyone else.
Right. Right. And it kind of goes along with that, if a captain's not willing to do it, then he shouldn't expect his men to do it either.
Exactly.
And that
If the captain's not willing to do it, he should not be captain.
That's true too.
Because he is leading his men. Yeah. And if he's not going to do it and is just going to send everybody else in, then that's one really crappy captain.
Yeah.
And then during that whole like rescue and he's inside, like,
oh my god, when
TK was like so calm.
like Captain. Oh, and he's like, Dad! Oh my god.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
and
God.
this is interesting because when they're on shift, it's always captain and like a close bond with the worker, but they're professional.
Mm-hmm.
So you can tell he's so scared when he starts yelling,
Yeah.
Dad.
Yeah.
Because he's like, screw professionalism.
Yeah, I know. It's like, and you can hear the pain in his voice. Like,
yeah.
Like I think that's the first time I cried while watching that series. Like my first rewatch, it was like, and my first rewatch. What am I saying?
And like it was so like sad and sweet.
Right, and then you get the whole, when you get the houses collapse again, the secondary collapse, and then like nothing, and they're like. That's when TK's yelling, and then when they do finally come out, like TK's like, "Yeah, take the kids," and then he like runs to his dad, like there was no like helping hug, everybody else. Yeah. He was just that tight hug. I was like, oh, pulling at the heartstrings right there.
And I guess at that point we see like how much. I mean, we obviously know TK loves his dad. It's not something he's ever hid before, right? But like, I think it is the first time you ever see him actually be. Like so scared and worried that like all his emotion just shows.
Yeah, because we haven't, to the best of my knowledge, at least you guys can correct me if I'm forgetting something, but we haven't really seen Owen in danger during an episode before. So we haven't seen when TK has to just be watching.
Right.
Right, yeah.
And that is the hardest thing, just when you're working together, to just stand by and not be able to do anything. But when it's your dad or it's your son or like you're related, it's so hard. And so there we really saw him go through a lot of emotions at once, I think.
Yeah. Well, and then seeing the like parallels of like here this dad is like searching for his kids and the kids come out, the dad like greets them, and then all of a sudden he just collapses.
Yeah. That's heartbreaking.
Then the team is basically, realizing, oh God, here this whole time this guy has been basically running on adrenaline, worried about his kids. And like the minute they're okay, he collapses and they lose him because he was bleeding internally the whole time.
Yeah. But he was afraid of directing attention away from his kids, so he wasn't going to say anything. Right. And like I think at that point I did cry during the scene just because that was so sad. And it's one of those things that you really want to turn out better, but it didn't. And unfortunately that's just reality, so it's like why'd you have to be realistic?
Right. And I loved how like Marjan, who previously in the episode had been all excited for the news people to record her rescuing that gal from the car or whatever and not getting it recorded, like she like pushes the cameras away. She's like, seriously guys, don't do this.
There's a time and a place, and seriously that was not the time and the place.
Right.
Yeah.
And like I love her going, oh, just stop it. Like that was basically her attitude.
Yeah.
And I love that we see Mateo, the reaction afterwards.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. He makes me cry so much. Like, I'm just like, I love like the whole talk. I love how like Owen's like, what did they tell you in the academy? And Mateo basically says like, stuff it down, and Owen's like, yeah, that's bullcrap.
Right.
I think that scene is the one that actually endeared Mateo to any degree to me. Because before, like, I liked him, but he wasn't nearly as high up in my opinion as like all of the other characters. And he still isn't, because I like most everyone else better, but he really, I think we saw a more grown-up version of him at that time.
Yeah.
And like we saw him hurting, and we saw him representing a very realistic side of the job.
Yeah.
Like, and that was likely, I don't know if that was necessarily his first loss, but that was probably one of the hardest losses that he'd ever had to been through.
Right.
And so, like, seeing him and seeing Owen basically being a dad to him for a few minutes, like, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's something that all first responders at some point is going to go through, especially in their rookie year. You know, they're going to see a lot of darkness. And when they go into it, they know it's going to happen. But when that first or second time that it happens and there's really no control over what you have, you realize just what you can't do. And then it makes it harder on you because you're in this job to be a first responder, to save lives. And then in this situation, they couldn't do anything about that because they didn't know. Which, again, goes back to, you know, the title of the episode, which is Act of God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The good and the bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And the super ugly.
Right.
Yep.
All true.
Especially the part also when they're driving down the street. This goes back when they were looking for that lady.
Mm-hmm.
And when he's like, one side of it is like so pristine and perfect still, while the other is damaged.
Mm-hmm.
They're completely like gone.
Right.
Yeah. Then we see Judd and Owen talk about like the chemo, the cancer, all that. And like, I love what Judd says in that moment, because he basically says with his PTSD or PTSI, as we like to more so say, he's glad he has Grace and stuff, and that he really needs her, and that Owen should just go tell TK, come on now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they walk out of the the locker room, and TK walks towards him out of his office, and he's like, hey, Dad, do you want to go to that place? So he's like trying to get him to go, and Owen's like, oh, you know, I got a lot of got to do these AARs, which is after action report, about the accident. And so TK walks away, and Judd's like, well, that went well.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to get him, because he's saying, like, man, if it wasn't, you know, if I didn't have Grace, I don't think I'd be where I am. And he's trying to get Owen to tell and open up to his son, and he's not willing to do it yet.
And he's like, I can't believe I'm giving advice about talking about your feelings.
Yeah. And also, like, the way TK was asking, I'm pretty sure, like, that would have been the time where he's like, Dad, what's going on? Like, he wanted to connect with him and, like, find out what was going on, because he knew something was going on.
Well, yeah.
And just the way he was acting, I think it was the point where he's like, I gotta find out what's happening. And that's just like, oh my gosh, I wonder if he just accepted that, for Pete's sake, that he would have to have found out, like, on his own.
I know, which is so sad.
Also, by then, had he found the pills?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why he was doing it.
I think he finds them after he goes home, after this incident.
Well, no, TK was walking out of Owen's office, and TK said, I was looking for a gum in your desk, and I saw the pill bottle, and I looked up what it was, and it says it's anti-nausea medicine for chemo patients. So it was the pill bottle that Owen had in his office at the firehouse.
So for some, but like, it's in the same episode, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's why my question is, like, he found it sometime at the same time, sometime around.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how those things had lined up, like when exactly he'd found like the bottle and when he'd figured out what it was. But if he'd figured all that stuff out by then yeah, he wanted to talk to his dad.
Well, that's the vibe I got from it. I was like, yeah, okay, so he was in there. He might not have looked up the drug, but he definitely would have found him, I think, in the desk. So by then he's like probably hoping to corner his dad and say, hey, you know, like, let's talk. And then Owen's like, oh no, I got to do this. And so
so I think maybe that's all the reason why he was asking him, like, oh, you know, let's go out, let's whatever, to like. And I think at some point he just kind of like Fuck it. Let me just tell this man right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then after that, we get Judd showing up to the church that Grace is helping clean up.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of get another taste of how he's feeling about the whole God thing. And throughout this whole episode, we've kind of got a little bit of it. Like Marjan shared a prayer in the fire truck.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, where's God in all this? And then she shares kind of something, and it makes... I could see him starting to like think things through.
I think when she said that she's not gonna question the Almighty.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he's like, well, you know, how do you know God's even around, or why is he letting things happen?
Mm-hmm.
Which is definitely valid. I think a lot of people, and I know I've done it, like when my mom got cancer, at the time I wasn't a Christian and I was questioning everything. I was like, why in the world is God letting her have cancer? And for a long time, I was really in a dark spot when it came to God, because I was like, I didn't believe that he could cause that. I've learned a lot since then, but it definitely took me a lot to get through that.
Yeah. I do know somebody who their best friend died of leukemia. She was only like 15 at the time. And after that happened, it was just I think today they're still struggling even, but they just couldn't reconcile, like, you know, where God was in all of that. And like, I get it. I know the details of what happened. I know it was hardly, it was not the best way to go. I get it. And I don't have the answers because I'm not God. But I'm glad I'm not.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to see it represented here, and like knowing, I mean, you get it.
But I really like this scene also because it gives us an opportunity, because, you know, I think through all of this, Grace has been concerned about like where her and him stand in their relationship. And, you know, she's like, well, where do we stand? And he's like, that's one thing I don't have to question. He totally, like, he's like, we're good. And that was, I think, more reassuring for her, because honestly, like, if I had gone through that and I was watching my husband go through that, I would be starting to wonder, like, is he not wanting to be with me anymore? Is, like, are we going to break up? So I totally feel like she was fearing that, and like that was a huge relief for her when he's like reassured her that he's like, no, I'm 100% sure I'm with you.
And I love that, because it just shows another, like, the side of Judd that we've seen before, but like just him blatantly straight out saying in the best way he can. He's like, nope, I love you, I'm staying with you.
Yeah, and then he goes on to say, you know, if this is important to you, like going to church, he's like, I'll go.
But I'm not doing the
praise
hands.
No praise hands. I was like that when I first started going to. I was like, I don't know about this, but yeah. So at least he's growing.
And
like Grace took it. She's like, I'll do plenty of praise hands for both of us.
And one thing that we kind of didn't go over is Michelle talk with her mother, and how with the I think it was a storage.
Oh yeah, at the beginning of the episode, she wanted to look through her sister's stuff, and her mom's like, "Why would you want to dig up that?" And then at the end, and
that's when she finds the picture of the blue pickup.
Right, the mom calls, and the only thing in the yard that wasn't thrashed around was that entire shed full of her sister's
stuff.
So
it is a sign.
Yeah, like a sign, an act of God.
Reference back to the title.
Yep. A sign from God that they need to look through there, and then that's when they find the picture of the truck.
Yeah. And I think
which set a whole lot of wheels in motion.
And I think a good question to ask is the fate of Michelle's sister. Like, how we each individually thought about that. Like, did we think she was alive the whole time? Did we think that she was dead? I personally had a feeling that she was alive the whole time. I'm not going to say I knew exactly how.
Honestly, I didn't think she was until when the guy mentioned the girl with the sad eyes.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know what episode exactly that was, but when he mentioned he gave it to the girl with the sad eyes, I was like, you know what? I feel like this is like super important, and I felt immediately that it had to be her sister.
Yeah,
honestly, go on.
I was just gonna say the whole time it was just fishy, like her sister, and I was like, there's no way that like she's actually dead. Like, maybe she could have, like, maybe in that moment I was thinking she was alive, maybe she just ran away, but like, no.
Yeah. Like, I think from the very
You
beginning,
guys.
I thought she was alive. Because I actually think it had more to do with like predictability of the show
Right.
and like how shows work. And I'm like, I don't think they're going to have killed her off. Like, mm-mm. And there were a couple times where I was just like, I mean, it's possible, but the more time went by, I was just like, no, they're going to find her alive somewhere. Where? I don't know. I don't think anyone could have really predicted. And I don't think I put together that the girl in the homeless camp was her. Like, not to my memory.
I did.
Love that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like from the beginning, like I had a vibe that her sister was still alive, like the whole time, because I just felt like there were too many. Like after they explained the whole boyfriend situation, and I'm like, okay, so we don't have the boyfriend. She left the boyfriend's house. I'm like, okay, so he didn't do it, and I'm like, okay, I really don't think she's dead.
Yeah.
Now, I was curious how they were going to bring it up. And when I did get skeptical when they brought the truck up from, and I know we'll talk about this in later episodes, you know, when they did find evidence of her sister being in the truck.
And I want to know how she got out of there, or like what happened with her and the truck, because I don't think they explained it.
I always just assumed she like jumped out or something like that. Like, I don't know, I just got that.
I think she just, the situation she was in, I think she wanted to run away and figured if she left her belongings that were tied to her, it was a better chance of her being able to hide.
Right.
Because, you know, we later find out the health problems she had, the mental problems she had. But yeah, I feel like my gut instinct when I first found out about her sister's disappearance, I'm like, okay, well, they wouldn't be bringing this up with the known of we're going to find her sister dead. I feel like we're going to find her alive. And
I didn't think they'd stretch it out the entire season if it was going to be like that. And here's the real question.
No.
Did you guys suspect the schizophrenia?
No. That part.
No, I did not.
I didn't either. I don't think there was a way to.
But,
like, because there was no hint towards it.
Yeah, but it does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it really does.
But I didn't. It's not something I feel like anybody can guess.
At some point, I thought it was like more of like she was kidnapped and like being held or some shit.
Yeah. I kind of thought that too. Like, was she abducted by? You know, because it's in Texas, so you're near, you know, the border.
Right.
You know, a lot of stuff going on. I know in Austin's are closer to the water, like Gulf of Mexico, but you know, all those different places. And so
there are a lot of ways to make somebody disappear, especially if it's part of like
I even thought like
or something like
memory loss was a possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, same actually.
But yeah, I thought I would just bring that up. Good.
No,
that's really good.
Good question. So after the whole Judd and with Michelle and all that stuff, we find out about. So TK confronts Owen at home finally about what he found about the pills. That was a really tough scene for me to watch. Just because I felt bad for TK, you know, here probably stewing all day, knowing about these medicines, waiting for his dad to come home, knowing that he can't really text his dad.
But also, there's a possibility that maybe his dad has an office at the house, you know. So that way he just came home and he figured it out.
I really feel like he figured it out at the station, though. Yeah. Just like the vibe we get from him wanting to talk and everything. I really think he figured it out.
Him then,
at least partially.
I mean,
he didn't want to make a scene.
But he was in his
he didn't want to do it with everybody else
around at the time. So screw Judd.
Well, Judd was.
It's just like the man is his son. So like, you know what he said? Like, you know, they're brothers. So it's like,
I'm just saying. I think TK figured it was a little too personal to talk about in the workplace.
Right.
And maybe he even wanted a little bit more time to process it. Because if he, like, just found the bottle or something while being in the office, he needed some... Maybe he wanted to look up the medicine for sure, so maybe his dad could warm out of it if he wanted to. And, like, he may have just needed some time to think about it.
Right.
Yeah, and then when he does finally get confirmation from Owen, he's like, man, you must have thought I was so weak. Didn't want to tell poor TK.
Imagine how he was stewing in those thoughts until Owen came home. Like,
Yeah.
And then Owen's like, no, I don't think you're weak. I think I am. And I love that bonding moment. And I feel like it was better that they did it at home because, yes, they're going to have to tell the crew, but that's a family thing, like a personal family thing they need to talk about and get out in the open with each other and be comfortable with that discussion before they start telling like everyone. So I really liked how they did it at home.
It's a fairly open workspace. Yeah. Anybody could walk by and overhear. And of course, TK didn't know if Judd knew. And so yeah, I'm glad they set it up the way they did.
Yeah. And I love how TK encouraged his dad. He's like, no, you're going to kick the crap out of this cancer, especially from now on. I've got your back. I remember saying almost those exact same words to my mom when she got cancer. I was like, I'm going to be there. And I remember having that conversation with my mom. I said, you're going to beat this. We're going to get through this. Yeah, so I remember that. One thing I want to know about this episode is where was Carlos?
Like, baby boy's missing.
Did he get blown away? What?
So I definitely thought maybe because I know at some point, you know, in the future that TK is going to talk about how he talks about things with his boyfriend, his maybe boyfriend. So I'm like, is this like one of the things that, you know, they talk about? Like, you know, because I would assume he was feeling like hella overwhelmed, like just finding this out. So like maybe there's some of the things that he talked about with Carlos.
I love like the fix where he goes and talks to Carlos afterwards. Like,
I'm sorry, his maybe boyfriend, bro.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
At that point, it was the baby.
Not accept the baby.
Yeah.
No, he just didn't realize.
Not until episode 9 does he actually say boyfriend. But even then, it's like, I think...
Maybe.
Yeah, I literally had that playing in my head.
Well, I don't even know if he's my boyfriend.
Yeah. So that's, I don't know, this was a good episode, but I would have liked to see Carlos. Like, I was thinking, like, the police would have been, like, blocking roads off and looking for people.
Yeah.
And, like, was Carlos out of the area at the time?
Was he just in another, like, was he just on the other calls?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He could have also been in it, but his scenes didn't make any sense, so they got caught.
Yeah, it's possible.
Or maybe Rafa had a scheduling conflict and couldn't even do season 4. Or, not season, but episode 4.
Yeah.
Because that does happen.
Yeah, but true. I mean, it's not like Rafa has a lot of things that could cause...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean he had something personally that,
Yeah. But I guess now we can go on to episode 5 stunts.
Oh, that stupid bar scene.
Oh my god.
The beginning scene just makes me cringe so bad. I get like secondhand embarrassment from it. I'm just like, why?
Oh my gosh.
It's so cringy.
I had no idea what was happening at first, and I'm like, I think this lessened my idea of the show.
At first it was like a 911 operator being like, 911, what's your emergency? And then like they like show the stage, and I'm like, oh great, this is what we're doing.
I love
like
Magic Mike.
I was like,
you know, the one thing that irks me is the tiara getting stuck. Oh god, that was like so disgusting to watch.
Oh my gosh, like my jaw hurt.
It was gross.
I can never watch that
thinking about it.
Yeah, I
can't.
And I think the scene is about this discussion should be about our man's Paul and Paul only.
Yeah, but also before that, when they get in there and the tiaras are stuck, and TK calls it, I think he calls it a crown. She's like, it's a tiara, and I'm like, who cares?
Oh yeah. Oh, even before that, what got me was when Owen says,
"Oh my god, yeah."
Mateo, check the
TK
champagne
was like,
room.
how would you know?
And TK's like, how? He's like, there's always something going on in the champagne room. Right? TK's like, and how do you know about that?
Oh my god.
That's where he met his second wife. I don't know.
Oh god.
I mean,
we don't know. Oh yeah. So yeah, Paul and Josie meet.
In that moment, yes.
Until the end, but I
was skeptical of her just because I'm like, okay, this is the new person in his life.
I hated
How's
it.
this gonna
I don't want to hate her because she's so pretty, but at the same time, like, she hurt my man so badly. Like, nuh-uh. Paul deserves the best.
Yeah. But we can get on that later. But
okay.
I didn't figure.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly thought it was going to last a little bit longer, but I didn't figure she'd be a permanent fixture because it was pretty early on. I'm like, they're not going to put 2 permanent relationships in the first season. Or not make them extremely prominent, which would have been the case with Paul and Josie. Because we already had Tarlos, and like they're not going to put all those relationships together
And
in one
it's
season.
in the
What do they
same
have left to do for the others?
the episode that they start Owen and Zoe.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah,
that's
I
true.
love Zoe. I hope she comes back, but I doubt it. Like you guys said, it's like they're not gonna start like a serious relationship that's gonna build from season 1.
I mean, it was pretty casual at the time, so I guess there is still
but I
a
mean, with the wife
possibility,
coming back,
but I'm just not sure.
Yeah, so but maybe you never know,
Ex-wife,
old feelings could be rekindled.
I don't.
I do not want that to happen. That's
I don't. Oh,
that's not realistic.
They haven't been
at all.
together in like what 20
Like,
years.
Serious. Yeah, and
like,
they had to have interacted before.
Not that parents that get divorced don't get back together, but like after 20 years, that's just a little weird.
I just hope it doesn't happen, but I don't know. We'll see. But let's move on to the
love
chemo
this scene.
appointment.
Oh god,
oh yes, I
TK,
love that.
Yeah.
Me too.
TK in this scene, like TK. Huh? Do you need something?
I'm
like,
not
you're freaking out. I am not freaking out.
I'm not freaking out. I'm kind of freaking out.
And then when Wayne gets there and Owen groans, he's like, "What? Do you need peppermint oil?" And he's like, "I will when the advice starts." Me. And then Wayne walks in and introduces himself to Kike, and he's like, "Man, you got your dad's QB1 looks."
I think it's just like, oh, thanks.
Yeah. He's like, "Austin, lock up your daughters," and TK's like jumps right in. I really was proud of TK for just jumping in and saying, "Actually, I play for the other team." He's like,
it's like, well, lock up your sons. That's not quite right.
Yeah. He's like, hell, I don't judge. And then he starts talking about like, well, the treatment we get here, and he's like, guess we can play the field when we can get it or whatever. And
he's like,
what are you guys talking about? And Owen's like, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, the treatments we get here can cause our little soldier to take a little extended furlough.
TK's starting
face
to die
at that moment was just like, and then Owen's like, no. He's like, I've never had a problem. No. And just TK,
little Patriot, always ready to stand at attention. And TK, he's trying so hard not to laugh. You can see that. But he's like,
I know.
Okay.
So Ronan, I have a question. If you're listening to this, how hard was it to not laugh during that scene? And how many takes did that take? Because I don't feel like you could have done that with a straight face.
No.
Same.
No. And like even TK with a straight face, he had the hand.
He's like, I'm not laughing, my daddy's
I'm not laughing.
I had a feeling like he was thinking things along the lines of like,
he's like, holy shit, I hope Carlos
this could be my future.
Oh my god, he probably isn't, but it's like automatically where my mind goes.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh. I loved that scene though.
Me too.
Just for a lot of things.
And then Owen's like, I'll take
look at mood
now. And he's like, okay. And by that point, TK is pretty much relaxed.
Yeah.
And he's just like, okay. So like, thank you, Wayne, for like relaxing a boy.
Yeah, so then from there, we're at the station, and Josie comes in to bring Paul a brisket to thank him for the night, helping her the night before.
Like, love that.
And I'm like, oh, okay. So she's, I don't know, like, here's why I didn't think that they were going to do Josie and Paul for very long, because that was what Allie was to Buck.
Yeah.
In season 2 of 911. He rescued her. And then she showed back up.
I was watching,
and they started dating.
Chicago Fire recently, and something about that came up. Is just like you are romanticizing the hero or whatever, just because I saved you.
Yeah, hero worship.
I don't know words, but basically that was it.
Yeah. So and it happens a lot. Like you hear the stories about that, and not to say that it could not be possible. But when you're in your worst time, the last thing that you're really looking for is a relationship. And I know a lot of first responders that said that a first responder sees you on your worst day.
Oh yeah, we see.
So it's I mean, and that's why I didn't think that Paul and Josie were gonna last. I don't like that how she acted.
I'm glad we didn't see how she acted.
She's like, I'm not a bad person.
I'm glad they cut that out.
I know you're not. It's like, Paul, no, she is.
Yeah. I mean...
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I have different thoughts about it. Like, I have the same thoughts as we're talking about, but I also, like, I don't know. Like, I think she could have responded. Well, we don't know how she responded, but I'm just assuming the way the conversation went, she didn't respond well.
Well, she was so ashamed of what she acted like last night.
Yeah,
I'm assuming that was
and
pretty
like my
horrible
thoughts
reaction.
on her reaction is that it was horrible, and that like if she wasn't comfortable dating him for being trans, then she should have just been like played it off like, oh yeah, I don't think this is gonna work out, like I'm not ready for a relationship, not to like blow up on him, because that's you have to almost think of yourself and what you're comfortable in for a relationship.
Yeah, and you know what? In like a very objective way, I can kind of see. I can understand. I don't want to say having a problem with it, because I don't think that's quite the right wording. But I can understand not being comfortable with it. And even if you're comfortable with it, like maybe family wise, like your family
it's
may
a
be
fear of
completely
the unknown.
transphobic or something. Yeah. And so like I get it to some degree, like maybe not being able to handle that, and that's okay. Like better to let someone find the person who can handle that than trying to pretend. But if you react badly to it, that's a whole different like ball game, and she reacted badly to it. So
no, I totally get that.
Yeah, I don't know if I made sense there, because I was trying not to
I totally
say anything wrong, but
I'd like
to
I guess back up a little bit with
me too.
Just a tiny bit, just with Mateo and TK on top of the shark. I love that scene.
Oh, that was so cute. Yeah, I love how supportive they are.
Oh my
I think if it was like reversed and it was Carlos, I think they really would support him, like TK, in the same way.
Yes, that scene lives in my brain rent free.
Yeah. Like Carlos comes in, TK kisses him, and you just hear from up above, "Damn boy!"
Yeah, I love that. Love that moment. And this is the scene that time when we meet Zoe and
beauty tips.
Owen's giving her all these
the spoon. Oh my god,
ideas and beauty tips, and
works. Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, and Zoe thinks that he's gay.
I love that. I also love how we put in like a straight guy with like fashion sense and income knowledge. Like I love that.
No, like I get it.
Understand how she's
it's
ironic. She's like, oh, so you're perfect.
Son. Yeah, it's just ironic because his son is gay and he's not. Like, there's a lot of things about Rob's personal life and Rowan's personal life that really are just ironic when you think about it in the show. When they're TK and Owen.
I know, like, Owen was written specifically for Rob, but like, I don't think I could ever imagine anybody else being
definitely not
TK.
Oh right, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I
don't think anyone could.
Literally so perfect.
Rowan is perfect for TK.
Literally, like everyone on the show though, like is perfect for their individual character. Like I feel like they were picked just so well that like if somebody else were to play them, they would not do half as good.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, TK says, when they're talking about dating, and Paul's
like, when was the last time you had to face Stone Cold rejection, like Mr. Charming or something like that?
Yeah, 116 days ago when I asked my soulmate to marry me,
like
and
3
he
and a
moved
half
in with his trainer.
And 6 months before was the accident.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like
it's been about 9 months.
3.81 months. I had to, but like a while back, people were debating it on Twitter about like, oh, that's so unrealistic. But like, if you think about it, when we meet TK and Owen, it's 6 months after the accident. And then like obviously that's not accounting for the proposal, because the proposal was like in that time frame of the 6 months after, and the 3 month mark like makes a lot of sense. Like I had to literally explain that to people. I'm like, it's not like he proposed 6 months ago at that point. Like 3 months does make sense, especially with where they're at.
Right, because it's going to take at least a month to get the remodeling done of the fire station before they can even be active and get everybody moved. I think
TK and Owen had to move first before they started the remodeling and the hiring. Yeah, so it was like...
So technically, like, everything probably happened a little quickly, but they also needed to get the station up and running.
Right, because it had been sitting 6 or 8 months. Or 6 months. Exactly. So they're kind of desperate for it to get, built back up.
Yeah. I find it interesting that they let it sit for 6 months. Like, were they trying to find another captain? Did they just suddenly decide 6 months later, oh, let's go bring the fire station back up? Like,
no, I kind of got the vibe.
Fix for 6 months.
I kind of got the vibe at in the first episode. So that gal that was there with Deputy Chief Radford was actually a Department of Justice person.
Yeah.
She was basically there because they were saying that the Texas fire departments were having problems with, or Austin fire departments, I can't remember if it was the state or just the city, were struggling with being inclusivity and accepting. And because of Owen's experience, they wanted him. And that's when they had the conversation about if you wanted a diverse captain, he's really not it. So I kind of got the vibe that it was sitting because they didn't have somebody to fit the bill for it, but they also needed somebody that could rebuild the fire station. And since I know we've talked in the past about, firefighters and first responders are often a very tight-knit community. So it's a lot of people in the area were probably struggling with the possibility of reopening the station. So they wanted an outsider.
I said to you guys yesterday, I wanted somewhere where they bond with the community, Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. And so Judd and Grace have been having struggles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of, the past.
Yeah.
They haven't been intimate since the accident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which goes along with the title of the episode, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love how we see Colleen again.
Yeah. The what now?
The thing that he cooked for her to make up for the. Oh wait, I'm getting.
Yeah, that's
at the end.
Or he ordered it out, I think.
But she makes ham.
I
had assumed it was his favorite meal, and he's like, what day is it? And she's like, it's a Monday. He's like, is it an anniversary? Is it a birthday? Did I miss something?
Literally got every guy ever when their significant other does something special, what I missed.
Yeah, that's something my dad would do. He's just like, what happened today?
I love how they bring Colleen back.
Me too.
I like her.
I hope
maybe have a little romance with some firefighter again. Paul.
Yeah.
Paul. I don't know about that, but I don't know. I'd just be glad to see her come back in.
Yeah, so their little call, not little, they're the fire at the breeding facility.
The stud factory.
Yeah, that was an interesting. That was the
best thing ever.
But it makes sense. The canisters are full of liquid nitrogen to keep things cold, and so when they get warm, it expands and they become projectiles. I love how Mateo's up on the top of the truck.
Oh my god! I have that
incoming.
I have a picture.
Watch
of him
out!
From there, a screen grab, and it's so good. He looks so it looks so badass.
Love that. And
it's if I try to picture my obituary.
I'm literally
we love that.
Welcome to Texas.
Yeah, we really do.
Yeah, welcome to Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's obviously in his element, with that. Obviously, he has a flashback and everything, which I kind of want to hook him then. But after that, he's really in his he's enjoying this.
Yeah. So after that, Judd kind of makes it up to
Osabuka
Grace because she tried to. Yes. So she comes home from work and he's there and he's trying to treat her like she was trying to treat him the night before, a couple of nights prior, and I thought that was really nice. He tried to make up
we
for
were screwed over. Okay.
Okay, and I think I know where it was supposed to be. So if we go from the Grace and Judd situation, we have Paul and TK talking at the station where we see Josie coming and talking to Paul and basically breaking his heart. So I think when Paul walks away from TK and goes upstairs, I think between that scene and Owen and Zoe being out on a date is when that scene should have been in there, the missing scene, the one that they teased us with, but they never gave us.
Yeah.
Hey,
I mean, I
they
understand it didn't make any sense for the episode because it was basically just what happened at the end of episode 2 again. But, at least give it to us in a deleted scene.
So much better.
Yeah.
I hope they do closer to 2.
Yeah.
Just for funsies.
Yeah.
Well,
Other
I
shows
doubt
I've
they
watched,
will,
they've
but like
not given deleted
seriously.
scenes ever, and then like the fans really begged for them, and then eventually seasons later, they did start giving deleted scenes. Yeah, so let's just start.
All right, guys, let's start begging.
Yeah.
More
But
than we
yeah.
already are.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And so TK is obviously feeling bad because he kind of encouraged
and
Paul
he's
to
like,
ask her out and
baby,
like
I
go
did the
out on
bad
a
thing.
date.
We gotta make it
They
better.
go out on a
Oh
date.
yeah.
Like, obviously, there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with it. Like, I'm glad he encouraged him to do it.
Right.
But, like, it didn't turn out so well.
He's
Yeah.
like,
And you
damn,
kind
and
of
not
see him
everybody
just
could get a
going,
hot
Yeah.
cock.
We totally didn't talk about my favorite line of the whole episode, but like in the gym scene when
What?
TK's like straight gay bi trans dating sucks. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Like, literally,
and he has a
boy,
hot
when
cop
did
at
you
his
ever face
fingertips.
struggles?
Right.
Not once. I mean,
Well,
according to him.
116
but that was
days
like
ago, everyone.
dropping trash to pick up like a piece of gold bar. So
I love that analogy.
Yes.
But yeah,
yes,
I had to
literal.
No, I
I
like
love
that.
that.
Like that line too. Yeah, so I figured we could talk about this at the end of like the discussion, but yeah, I wanted to talk about the Tarlos missing scene. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like we would have like as fans we would have supported the relationship of Josie and Paul, I think. But I feel like she needed a lot of growing to do. And understanding, but I think she was like just scared. Like we talked about like a family thing. So I feel like it just wasn't the right time. But I'm glad he put himself out there and started learning, he can't always hide behind a dating app to date somebody.
Yeah.
So he did a chance, it didn't work. He can try it again. And then from there we get Owen and Zoe out on the sushi, which I gotta say, if Owen was out eating sushi, he shouldn't have been because he's got cancer and he's on chemo.
Yeah.
Just saying. Raw fish is like...
But maybe he got
because
one
I
that like
eat sushi, but
with
I
raw
don't
fish
eat the
because
raw
there are
fish.
some
you
like
can
that,
get
but
it
still,
cooked.
I only eat the
me
shrimp
too.
tempura.
I only
rolls.
eat one kind of sushi.
Delicious.
Seriously.
I don't know what the heck that is, bro.
Oh, I only eat the Philly roll. It's
gross.
smoked
You lost me at
salmon,
cream cheese.
cucumber, and cream cheese.
Cream cheese belong in bagel and bagel.
It's pretty good,
I love cream cheese. It's delicious.
Oh, that
Hey, it
sounds
tastes
good.
amazing. So, like, I'll take mine.
Yeah.
We should all just go out for
Now
sushi
I'm
one day when
hungry.
we eventually meet.
Yeah, I'm food tripping
meet
for
up. Like,
sushi
do
now.
it. Yeah. Same. I want sushi. Okay, moving on.
After that scene,
Tarlos!
Oh my
Paul
god, that
comes
was
out
so
from
cute.
work and Paul or TK and Carlos are sitting on and leaning against his car, waiting for Paul.
He's like, "Hey guys, what's up?" And he's like, "Waiting for you. Come out with us tonight."
Like, no.
Like,
can we talk about casual the intimacy between TK and Carlos? Is like
so cute.
Yeah.
They're obviously more comfortable with each other by this
and
point.
just
Because Carlos just casually
like,
looks over at him and they're just side by side.
Yeah, and that look.
I love the look he gives. Guys,
Yes.
find yourself somebody that looks at you the way Carlos
And Carlos
looks at
and I
TK.
have one thing in common.
Seriously.
Like we both love TK Strand.
Okay, two things. No.
Okay, what else? What was the other thing?
Carlos and I have like the same brand of car, and I love that.
Oh, nice.
I love that
Chevy.
so much.
Yeah.
And I love that conversation where Paul's like,
straight,
so I guess he told you about me, huh? What, that you're straight? Yeah, I don't judge. Like, of all the things Carlos says, that's what he says.
Yes.
That is one of the best lines.
Carlos literally does not care
about
any of it. Like, he could care less who you are. Like, I don't know if that makes any sense, but I think I'm getting my point across. But Carlos isn't really fazed by anything.
Like, okay, loves
and
everybody.
I love that about him.
Yeah, and I love that, like, Tarlos suddenly has this support system of, like, well, LGBTQ people like him. Just not
so I loved seeing the Tarlos scene of, as they're like, it was
so
hand
cute.
in
The
hand,
dancing
and like
was
Carlos putting his arm around TK in the
They're
club.
boyfriends at that point. I'm
Yes.
marking it
Yeah,
as
I don't give a shit what he says. Like, at that point, they were... I think
they're obviously in some.
I was saying I think a lot of their relationship was developed off screen. Because
yeah. I mean, they can't
which
give
I
us
wanted to see all
everything,
of
so I
it.
kind of get that, even though I want it.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
just-
they could,
yeah.
but there'd be nothing else to no room for anything else. But
yeah,
which I'm okay with, but also
Same.
Yeah, so I want the missing scene. I don't know. We have to.
Yes.
Like, I don't care if the conversation was. So what I heard was that the missing scene that they teased us with, the conversation that they had in it was about another guy, which was Paul, whereas
With
it
Judd.
was the same as what was in episode 3, where TK's
Oh.
frustrated with Judd, so all he's doing is talking about Judd. So that's part of the reason. And so I get that vision of Carlos is coming over to him, putting his arm around him from behind and just kind of trying to reassure him or something, because he's feeling bad about, encouraging Paul to go out on a limb, and he did, and it didn't go well. And then that's when they come up with the idea to take him out that night or some night.
I want it.
Yeah.
So that was what I heard. I don't know how true it is, but man, I would love to have that scene. I mean, they gave us, even when I go onto Apple TV where I bought the season, that's the clip for episode 5, and I'm like, that wasn't even a scene in the episode.
Yeah, it's like the thumbnail.
So I'm like, why are you showing that scene?
Yeah.
So I want that scene. But
I'm like, yeah, just that's the bait.
Yeah.
Like the drawing.
But
Yeah.
And I'm checking if it's the same. Yeah, it's the same on Hulu too.
yeah.
Like they have that. I'm like,
Girl, what?
Okay.
Yeah.
Verbalized.
That was my keyboard smash.
Yeah. Verbalized.
And I don't even do keyboard smashes most of the time, so that's even funnier.
But yeah, I love how it ends and everything.
Yeah.
The club scene.
So sweet.
Yeah, I think that was a great ending for the episode.
So,
Paul
I think that's my
comfortable
favorite
there, just
trio.
okay,
I know
this.
Paul, Marjan, and Mateo is also a trio, but I want TK, Paul, and Carlos.
Yeah.
Forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
3 pretty best friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be like, I ain't never seen 2 pretty best friends. There's
I think. Well, yeah, and I definitely think Paul and Carlos
they
would
like
get along
TK.
because they like to cook.
Oh yeah. And TK can just be the taste tester.
Somebody do the thing, ride the fish.
Would it just be funny if if Owen and Carlos get together to cook one night,
Mm-hmm.
but TK can't cook?
I think everybody
this is
had
just like,
TK
I don't think he can
that.
cook.
Every fic I've ever read, it's just like TK can't cook, and I agree. I think he knows to make a sandwich to survive,
but
and that's it.
not much. And I'm just and so he's just. But what's funny is that he's living on.
I mean, takeout is
I guess he ate a lot of takeout
in some places,
which that's
in the city. So
yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, and I figured that he lived
I just
somewhere
want to be the
downtown.
taste tester.
So yeah, there's hella Chinese food. Yeah, so that very
He
much
didn't look like he was in
downtown
exactly a
where
fancy
it's,
place.
Most food stuff is cheap. I get $1 slice with a drink.
Love that.
Thank you guys so much for joining us and listening. Be sure to follow the podcast on Anchor. We are also on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Breaker, and more platforms to come. You guys can also follow the podcast on our socials at 9LS Roundup on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also follow me on Instagram at For Love of Tarlos and at Twitter at For Love of Tarlos.
You can follow me, Grace, at Ronan Rafa 911 on Instagram and CheapGirl31 on Twitter.
You can follow me, EJ, at EJ8302 on Twitter,
everywhere.
Instagram, and Facebook.
Not everywhere. Twitter and Instagram at Buttercup Strand.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Okay, that was fun.